Come, all you moonshiners, if you want to hear about the kind of booze.
Well, welcome back to Barley and Hops. Yep, I'm George. The channel, yep, you already know it. It dares to unlock the mysteries of home distilling. God, we're having such a great time. I get so motivated and excited every time I get to do one of these. We promised that, and this has been sitting around for a little over, about 2 weeks now, and I haven't opened it yet. This is that 2-inch, that 8-gallon 2-inch combination reflux pot still, the 2-inch combination pro from Mile High Distilling. So we're going to open that up. We're going to share everything with you, kind of walk through it a little bit, but let's do something else first. Yes, it's the fermenters. These things have been operating now for about 3 days, and I started out with a really huge yeast cake that dissipated and dropped in both of these. And this is the original corn. Remember, this was, I told you that we had the additional sparge water, and it was a little bit less. Matter of fact, our original gravity was just a little bit lower than our original gravity was in this one. So we beefed that one up as well with some sugar. I think I put like 8 pounds of sugar in this one, as opposed to the 4 pounds of sugar only required to bring up my original gravity in this one. And, but look, I've heard, and here's some answers, some rumored myths, you can call it whatever you want to, but what should you do with it once it starts fermenting? Really, you don't have to do anything to it. I've got these covered with saran wrap, and I had to puncture a little hole in both of them because they started to really expand. I didn't want them to blow off. But, should you touch it? Should you mess with it? Look, I know every time I walk by it, I can't help it. I give it a shake. Just because it's there. You're not going to hurt it. Do you need to open it every day? And I've heard that. I've been told I've got to open it up every day and give it a stir and get it. You can do that if you want to. My attitude is, why mess with something if it's really working all by itself? And these things actually do work on their own. Now, we're going to give it its requisite time, 7 to 10 days or so, give or take, depending on everything we've described before. When it finishes, this will start to drop out. And I can see I have a small sediment base in this one, a little bit larger one in this one. But this will all settle out. And we should start to clear this at about day 8 or 9 or so. But this will be ready to introduce into our still. And, oh yeah, I opened up and gave it a smell. You can't help it. Give it a smell. Oh, it's a wonderful odor. I wanted to share that. So we're well on our way. Oh, by the way, you can see, anytime that you have yeast inside a fermenter, whatever the temperature, and ambient temperature here now is about 76 or so. And the temperature inside, as your yeast are working their way through, will always raise anywhere between 3 to 6 to 8 degrees or so. And you can tell that it has raised in here because I've got some fog, or what do you call it, condensation inside underneath these the saran wrap. So that lets you know that the temperature inside here is a little warmer than it is on the outside. Let's get back to where we came for. All right, now having had the opportunity to go through all that step by step, we made a playlist for you, so you can go check out the playlist, and we put them in order so you can follow through from start to finish. I'm going to open this box up, and now some of this I'm going to go ahead and flip through because you don't have to watch me go through each and every unroll, unwrap, unfold, but as much as necessary, we'll leave in the video and we'll edit out the other stuff. By way of comment, as we go through this, you'll notice that I've kind of gotten away from, hey, please subscribe, like us, leave a comment. I kind of figure that this channel is probably popular enough, and it's the community is active enough to where that happens anyway. If it does, fine. If it doesn't, I just have a good time doing these. Let's pull out all of this packing material because they pack it very well, and we're gonna open up all of this stuff. Let me start unwrapping this. Just removing. Wow, looks like we got us a shirt or something in there. just got to make sure that none of this packing material has anything else wrapped in it. And here we go. I got another box in here. I'll get that out and I'll be back. Oops. I got the top open. I've got the lid out. This is the lid for the 30-liter, somewhere near about 8 gallons milk can. But stuffed inside this can, oh my goodness, are some other things. We've got a roll of copper. That's way more copper than I think you'll ever need. Plus, we've got a way to clean that, use it over and over again. Oh, ooh. Got some more items in here. Oh gosh, it's like a Christmas, it just keeps giving. Oh, we got a bag of ration rings. Ration rings are used to increase the surface area inside the column so that you've got more. We'll explain that in detail. All of our connectors and hose fittings. Whew, I've hit the bottom. Oh yes. And they even include some hoses for your condenser and your reflux chamber. So we've got that. So besides having a whole lot of mess here, we've got a whole lot of equipment. Now, again, I'll refer back to that 3-legged stool. Yep, we've got some quality equipment. Now, your equipment may not be as sturdy and brand new and shiny as this. It doesn't mean that it's poor equipment. As long as we've described, as long as your equipment performs the function in which you intend it to and it does it efficiently, you've got good equipment. So what do we need in that 3-legged stool? Yeah, good equipment, good ingredients, and a good process. Guaranteed results. Yeah, I know. This is that part of the video I probably would have fast forwarded to also, so don't feel bad. You know, if you're a beginner or a novice, you know, for beginners especially, this is critical information. For a novice, a lot of this is reminders, because we're going to cover a lot of little tidbit information as we go through. I understand. Look, let me get reset up here, and then we'll put this together, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's complete, and we'll describe everything as we're going through that. Just kind of make sense of it all. Well, what do you think? Yeah, me too. The fermenters are a great backdrop. And I put it here because I figured it'd just be kind of neat, you know. I got all of this laid out here, and this is the 8-gallon kettle, and or boiler, and Mile High added a metallic sticker inside the package, so I put that on the outside of the boiler just because it's there, and I think it's pretty darn neat. All right, we've got the boiler itself. Now I want to show you a couple things. It's really sturdy, and 304 stainless steel. Stainless steel is the easiest materials really to maintain because there's no corrosion. You'll have some buildup of sticky stuff and the hard things and stuff that could potentially grow if you don't clean it, but in most cases, it's really simple to clean. It's sort of like a rinse out. Use hot soapy water or warm soapy water. On this in particular, you have a port on one side here. And this port, you could use this port for several different things. One in particular is if you are of the mind to add the thermometer here, it's available to you. But what Mile High includes with this is a plug that you put in here, because remember, we want to know what the temperature is at the head. We're not as concerned with the kettle as we are the head temperature. We just have to be careful and track that closely so that we don't overheat. And of course, if we're tracking it, we shouldn't underheat as well. I put some thread tape on here. Now remember, when it comes to assembling this still, there are 3 levels of tightness. There's finger tight, there's snug, and then there's tight. And you know what that is. That's, you know, ratchet, big wrench, pipe wrench. We don't use it tight on anything, all right? We use either finger tight or snug. In this particular case, it's snug. I put 1 wrap of thread tape on here, and remember to put that thread tape in the proper direction, because if you don't, if you put it on the I don't want to get too wrapped up in that, but if you put it on the opposite direction as you start to screw it in, it likes to try to unwind itself, so put it in the direction of the threads. Okay, snug is finger tight first, and then grab that wrench that I got laying around here. There it is. This one is a 14 millimeter, and then just give it like a 1/4 to a 1/2 turn. Now that's what we call snug, all right? And everything after this is going to be finger tight. Now, why don't I want to cramp down on that? Well, you should not have. If you have a little bit of leak, just tighten up just a little bit more. You shouldn't have any pressure inside a still, because a still is considered an open system. Okay, it's open to the atmosphere through the column and then through the condenser. It's open to the atmosphere, so you really shouldn't build up any undue pressure. So therefore, the only pressure that you have is the weight of the liquid inside your kettle. And of course, it's, you know, your average atmospheric pressure is like 14.7 pounds per square inch. So that's what you've got pushing down on. Look, it's not that much. It's not so substantial that it'll start to push out. Okay? That just point of interest. On the other side, you'll notice this opening, which is now closed because there's a cap on it. And remember, this is finger tight. You can remove this, remove the cap, and that port is there so that you can include a heater element. If you're not going to use electric heat with a controller, well then you just put this cap back on here, tighten it up, and you can use a open flame, you can use a hot plate, or some other means of important energy into your system. I'm going to set that aside because we are going to use electric heating element, and I've got one right here. This one, I've got 2 of them sitting over there, and I've got plenty of them hanging up on the side on the wall over there. We're going to insert this, and I've got another clamp with a gasket, and we'll insert that into our kettle. Now, in saying that, that does not come with the still. If you're going to use a heater element, you're going to have to either purchase one separately, or that from Mile High, they've got them, or go out and purchase one yourself, and look back on some of our videos and we'll show you how to wire those up and where they're available, because you can get them at your local hardware store. Yes, the recommendation for this size still is 120 volt, 2000 watt. Okay, if you're using a 1500 watt heating element, you'll find that it's going to take an extremely long time because of the amount of energy that you can actually import into that, or input, is really, really low. With a 2000 watt element, you've got a lot of potential opportunities to push in more energy than you're actually losing at the same time, so you can maintain your heat. I'm going to use, now you know, I'm a real big fan of the PID, proportional integral and derivative controller, which is like cruise control on your car. You know, you set that with a thermocouple at the top. But we're going to use the equipment that came with the still, which is going to be the dial thermometer. And I've had this for quite a while. This is the Mile High controller, and it's a 240 volt controller. And I'm just going to plug in my 240 volt element into my controller, and I'll use this variable temperature controller to control the heat, which plain and simple, I can turn it up, I can turn it down, I can maintain temperature, I can increase temperature, and that's what we'll use. But you're going to have some means to control that. And that could even be probably not as efficient, but an on-off switch. Probably not as efficient as a variable controller or a PID controller, but it is a method of control. The lid comes with a screen right in here, and it's permanently attached to the lid. So, and what's that there for? To prevent stuff from falling back down inside your kettle and getting mixed into your mash, for anything that you put inside the column. And on the side here, there's a small port, and this again is going to be snug. So port for an additional, if it's an option, if you want a 5 psi safety valve on there to release pressure. And what did we say earlier? You should never build up pressure. But for those who are anal and really concerned about potentially building up pressure, you can put a 5 psi pressure relief valve right there. And those are offered by Mile High as well. All you do is place this on top, this lid on top of your kettle, and there's this gasket that goes around this lid. Place that on there. Of course, this is a tri-clamp, and it comes in 3 pieces. Wrap that around the outside, close it off, and then just finger tight. Finger tight. I've known people who have used pliers, and believe me, pliers are not necessary. If you just get this finger tight, because as you close it, it squeezes that gasket together, and all you want is a good seal so that it does not leak. And just good finger tight. That's why they put a wing nut on it. That's not for a pair of pliers. Now, let's just start adding the rest of this equipment. This is the 2-inch column, and it goes together really easy. If you just open up these clamps, it's almost intuitive. Place the clamp, place the column, and then, of course, attach. Now, I know you can't see what I'm doing down here, but believe it or not, this is intuitive, so it kind of explains itself. And when we get to the next one, you'll see exactly what the process is. Oh, I was loosening. Now, and this has a wing nut as well. So what are we doing? We're going finger tight. Very good. Now, our next piece, in this particular case, see, we have options. We have options where we can run this as a reflux or a pot still. And if we're, in either case, it's not a bad idea to have your reflux chamber attached to your column. Because with the option that you have is that you don't have to run it. It can just be an extension of the column as opposed to acting as a reflux chamber. You just don't run water through it. You just don't hook it up. So it gives you a little bit extra room in your column, all right? Here is where you would more than likely, if you're going to use the copper mesh that's provided, that you would add your copper mesh into your column. Now, this is about 5 or 6 inches of copper mesh in length or in width. I actually had someone several years ago brought his still back into me and said, this thing don't work, it backs up. And he showed me he had every bit of this copper. I don't know how he did it. He got it inside his column. I had a hard time getting it out, but that's like I said, this is way too much copper. You've got enough here to last you quite a while. You just need to roll off 12 to 16 inches. Use a pair of shears and cut that. Once that is cut, just loosely roll it up. You want to roll it up to a size that fits inside that column, because what happens if you get too much in there? Yeah, you will block it up, and you will start to have a little bit of back pressure that you don't want. Okay, so you don't want to block up. Hell, that's the only other way in an open system you can have pressure buildup is if you block it. So, and push that down in there. Now, how many of those do we put in there? Well, that's totally up to you. You can put 1, 2, 3. You can fill this thing all the way up if you like. I would just caution that the more you put in there, the more potential you have to create some sort of a blockage, and you don't want to do that. Just make sure that they're loosely rolled. Now, a 6-inch piece of copper, as I have there, remember that a plate, and we always talk about plates, plate terminology, in a still. What does a plate? A plate is a physical thing, but it's also a measurement. So you increase the number of plates, which this would be almost one plate. And what that is again, it increases the surface area of your column, plus it gives your liquid, your vapors, time to start to condense just a little bit. Just a little bit, because of the transfer of energy that's going on from the outside of this column and through that mesh. So you get a little bit of just very slightly, but you get some activity. All right, we're talking about reflux activity. Well, let's go to the next step. The next step is to attach the reflux chamber. Yeah. And we'll place our gasket, the reflux chamber, and always keep in mind where the orientation of your ports are, so that you'll know that your ports should be about on the same, should be somewhere near the same side that you're going to have your condenser. We're going to place a condenser on this side, so my port for my water in on the bottom is going to be on the same side. That way it's easier to tap off of that, or to bring in a separate line. You can do it both ways. When we get to actually running that, I like to put all of my connectors on the same side so it just kind of looks neat. And from my experience, I prefer having my reflux water, if you have the opportunity and the flexibility, is to have that separate from my condensing water. So the point is if you tap off of your condensing water, well, then every time that you increase your reflux flow, the water in your reflux, then you're affecting the water flow in your primary condenser. And so you've got this battle, or this dance that goes back and forth. It's easy to overcome, but to me, there we go, finger tight. It's easy for me to do, but I prefer not to do it, so I like to just run a separate line. That way I can turn the reflux on, and I can either slow that down or speed that up based on production, while at the same time leaving my condenser alone. Okay, next is the sight glass. And what do we say this can be used for? Whew, yeah. This can be used as a stop, just a place where you can watch the activity that's going on inside the still, or you can use it as a gin basket, And if you do use it as a gin basket, this comes in your kit as well, and it's another gasket with another screen, and that screen goes here, and it's there to prevent anything inside your gin basket from dropping back down into your still. Now, what else can you use this for? Yeah, you can put your ration rings. Let me put this clamp on here first. Oh, yep, same direction. And you'll also find that if you put all of your connectors in the same direction, not only does it look pretty cool, but after a couple of times of running your still, you'll know where to put it, because these are great anchor points for, small rubber band or piece of string that holds a tube, in the right position. So, there we go. Just good and finger tight. Now, at this point, you can add your ration rings that come with it. And what do the ration rings do? Well, they increase the surface area of your column. You can place them in the column. You can place them in the gin basket. It really doesn't matter as long as it's in the column flow somewhere. Probably one of the better places to place these would be in the stack itself, in the column, and allow all of your moisture to flow through that. I have Additionally, this does not come with the still. This is something I have laying around that I will probably use with this, and that is these copper springs. These came from another still that I have, but they're really unique because they're small springs of copper material, and they also increase the surface area. So when I run this, I will probably just, I might not fill this with that, or I don't know, put some juniper berries in there. No, I wouldn't do that because I'd be making a gin then, and we're running a corn liquor, so I probably wouldn't put any juniper berries in there. But there are other things that you can put in there to try to extract some flavors as we distill through them. Okay, let's keep going. There's one additional piece of this column, and that goes right at the top here. In this small step, oh, come on. Oh, let me get a better formulated, there we go, a much rounder gasket. Aha! And this is the next step. Now, interesting. Oh, George, put them on the same way. We add this in order to attach our Liebig condenser. Now, remember, this is a 2-inch column. I think we discussed this. You know, what's the difference between a 2-inch column and a 3-inch column? You know, pi r square. It's the amount of flow that your column can handle. So with an 8-gallon still, a 2-inch column is more than adequate. As your kettle size increases, your column size should increase with that, proportionately with that. And the reason for that is that you're going to be producing a lot more vapor a lot quicker. I wouldn't put a 4-inch column on this still, only because it's kind of ridiculous. So a 2-inch column is more than adequate. They have column sizes from 2 inches to 3 to 4 to 6 to 8. They get ungodly in size based on, again, the kettle. We have a 53-gallon kettle, and I've got a 6-inch column that goes to that. Now, we additionally have here some of these small clamps, and these small clamps clamp onto the end of the Liebig condenser so that it points down, because you want gravity to work in your favor, of course. So we'll place this on here first, and there's no absolute method and or order in which you can assemble the whole column and then add the column to the still, or you can assemble the whole Liebig condenser and add that. We'll add this. And the orientation should be with the end of your drip tube pointing down. Of course, you want gravity to work in your favor, so place that. Add that clamp. About right now, 3 hands would be helpful. There we go. Now this will give us, and loosen up a little bit and get it oriented correctly. There we go, there's that. I can loosen this one and orient it like so. So this gives me a little bit more opportunity or options to move it further away or closer to the kettle, but you want it to be able to drip straight down. And from experience, if you watched us run a still before, you know that I'll put a piece of chemical resistant hose on the end of this, and it runs into the jar with a slit cut in the side of it, and that's just to kind of direct the flow in one place. Yeah, I'll do that. But This is the still itself all assembled. There's one last piece, and this is one that's really exciting. Not only is it exciting, but it's really, really useful, because now we need to find out, or we always want to know, what is the temperature, and where do we want to know the temperature? We want to know at the head, at the top, and this is called the point of no return. So once your fluid or your vapor passes through here, that's called the point of no return, and it starts to move down your condenser, your cold water goes in the bottom and comes out the top. It condenses that liquid back to a fluid, and it runs out the end. We want to know what it is here, because we want to make sure that we're actually distilling and separating ethanol from as much water as we possibly can. Of course, we can't get 100%, but we can get pretty darn close. With a reflux still, you can get anywhere from 180 proof to 190 proof, which is a lot. With a pot still, if you're pumping out 140 proof, you're doing extremely well. But the main difference is between the two is that a reflux still has the potential, and sometimes the bad habit, of stripping some of the flavors. Whereas a pot still, almost all the flavors that are resident, that are there in your mash, carry over to the final product. But what's everybody want to do? Oh yeah, I want to make it 190 proof because I want to be able to brag about that. That's quite all right. Because what do you do with it at 190? Yeah, you cut it. You're going to cut it down anyway to about 80 or 85 proof. So, 40% alcohol, as opposed to, 85, 90% alcohol. You're going to cut it down anyway. So a lot of times I like to run a pot still because it's a little bit easier to maintain. It's a little bit easier to run. And oh, by the way, I'm going to cut it down anyway, and I want a little bit more of those flavors. Last but not least, and lo and behold, got the dial thermometer, and we'll place that at the top. And of course, we'll put a piece of Teflon tape around there. It only takes one piece. You don't go crazy. Again, we're not building up any pressure. And then orient that thermometer in whatever direction you want to orient it in so you can keep an eye on it. Voila. One still completely assembled with all the pieces. And I have no pieces left over except for some extra washers that they included in our kit. All right. The very first time you get a still, what do you think's the best thing to do? Come on, I know somebody out there's got this answer. What's the first thing you do? I heard sacrificial run. You're close. It's a stainless steel still. Warm soapy water. Warm soapy water will clean out anything, residual oils and any dirt and dust that's collected on it, and you'll be fine. Now, let's talk about sacrificial run. I hear that so often. Do what you want. You want to do a run, you do a 3-gallon run. Can you run 3 gallons in an 8-gallon still? Sure. Just keep in mind, if you have a heating element in there, you want to make sure that your mash covers your heating element, or you're going to burn it up. So you can do that. So, and do your sacrificial run, and you'll feel good. Pat yourself on the back. You'll feel good about it. You go, yep, I did a sacrificial run. If you want to wash it out with warm soapy water and then rinse it really good, you can just run water through it and distill some water and save that for later use. Or you can just run a mash through it. You're going to kill anything that's in there with all that heat. But you're probably not. You're more than likely not going to have any of those other side byproducts. But if you're worried about it, be happy. Make yourself happy. Do a sacrificial run and say you've done that. But I don't get really that wrapped up around the axle about it, because just don't. Okay? We've come to the end of this. If you've got any questions, please let us know. But as we always say here on the channel, happy distilling.